ongoing SAA strike. We are now crossing live where the SAA strike, the airline, the unions, the CCMA are all meeting in the hopes that a deal can be reached. A very good afternoon to you, Linda. We obviously saw NUMSA serving SAA with a secondary strike notice. We also heard Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan saying that there's a possibility they will be unable to pay salaries at the end of the month. I mean, you are with Kali Kali at this point. What is the latest?
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Lisa. And indeed, as you rightfully put it, the unions did say that they are aware that the money to fund these wage increases might not be available, and that's why they've intensified on their strike. They say that SAA came with a 6.5 wage offer on the table last night, but withdrew it, and that is why we're seeing them back to square one today. But they're also saying that they're moving forward. They're starting at 6.5 and going up to 8%, meaning they're open to talks, and that is exactly what they're doing right now. But to explain to us what the update is or what the situation is like where SAA is concerned, I've got with me the spokesperson, Tladi Tladi, who'll give us a sense really of what the situation is today. Tladi, yesterday when we spoke, you were quite confident that you would be getting back to work, but we're seeing today that you've been issued with a notice for a secondary strike. Are you even prepared for that?
I think the right word to use is optimistic. We remain optimistic that parties will find one another as soon as possible. For as long as the impasse continues, it is the business that hurts. It is the employees who are embarking on an industrial action, who have been locked out, that will also feel the pinch. We can confirm that indeed we have been served with the notice for the secondary strike. And in terms of that notice, if the strike were to actualize or if the strike were to be sustained into the following week, the secondary strike will take place on Monday. It is an unfortunate situation that we are dealing with, and we hope parties will, as soon as possible, find a way of breaking this deadlock. As we speak right now, parties are locked in a meeting, which is a continuation of a Section 150 mediation process in terms of the Labour Relations Act. You will recall that we met with the unions last week on Friday. However, we could not reach any agreement. Now the discussions and negotiations are continuing, and we have brought on board a new commissioner who is mutually accepted amongst the parties in order to facilitate this process, which is voluntary in its nature, and we remain optimistic that a resolution will be found soon. The fact of the matter rather is that SAA does not have money. You cannot give what you do not have. Hence, we have placed a proposal. Having moved from 0%, we have put on the table a proposal of a salary increase of 5.9%, which is contingent upon us raising the current realities that we are faced with.
But they're saying that last night SAA came with a new offer. Are you denying that you came with a new offer? What happened to that, and why did you revoke it?
There is no new offer on the table. You will appreciate that in an environment where parties are negotiating, there would be moments where there are various options and proposals that are placed on the table. And on this one in particular, let's not edit what happened. The reality of the situation was that a consideration around 6.5% was considered by the parties, and SAA, in its comments on the matter, was an indication that this is a matter that we are putting on the table as an option and not an offer, because the negotiating team did not have the mandate. It was qualified that it was a proposal without prejudice, which meant that SAA would have to go back to their principals in order to establish whether or not that proposal could in fact be translated into an offer.
But how do you even consider 6.5 when you said initially, even the minister says you don't have money? So where did the 6.5 come from all of a sudden?
It is not something that is coming up all of a sudden. It is part of the effort in the context of negotiations.
But where would the money come from?
I am going to answer that question. I had the question. It is part of what happens in the context of wage negotiations, where you look at various options. The 5.9% that is currently on the table is subject to conditions. So, if parties are able to consider certain proposals in principles, we then have to consider the conditions that attach to the payment options. So these are part of a number of proposals that were being considered. 6.5 was never presented on the table as an offer, but it was an option for parties to consider.
And then, of course, they're saying that you have not removed the option of retrenchments, which is one of the things that they're fighting for. They're saying that in the quest to have wages, we cannot also, turn a blind eye to what SAA is trying to do, which is retrench.
We are trying to negotiate with labor here and urge them to work with us and to walk the journey with us. When the certificate of non-resolution was issued by the CCMA, was on the basis of the fact that parties were not in agreement. What we saw subsequent to that was a situation where labor has brought a number of other demands that are outside the framework under which the certificate was being issued. Secondly, the issue around restructuring is dealt with under a different dispensation, albeit under the same separate process that speaks to one of the pillars of the strategy. Separate issues in that manner, but labor saw it fit to bring this issue on board and to compound the issues in the manner that they have done so. It is important that you deal with matters that will enable progress as opposed to compound the situation that will cause parties to reach a stalemate.
But it seems they're not backing down on the strike. What impact will this have should it continue on Monday? You said that should there be a complete shutdown, you stand a chance of losing 50 million per day. And at this point, that number is low because a number of them have returned to work.
A number of our employees have returned to work, and we have assessed the situation. Initially on Sunday, we reinstated the international service, and a few days ago, we announced that we are reinstating the regional service, where we have introduced flights to 6 points on the African continent. And today we also announced that we will be introducing, albeit on a limited basis, service in the domestic market. That is encouraging because it shows that, notwithstanding the fact that there's a strike action, some of our employees are committed to working because they understand the difficulties that the organization, the company finds itself in insofar as its financial performance is concerned. Yes, indeed, if the strike is sustained, the business will continue to hurt, and those employees who are on an industrial action, they know that the principle of no work, no pay will apply, and they will also hurt.
All right, there you have it. Kadita, the SAA spokesperson, saying that the 6.5 that the unions claim was put on the table was in fact an option, and that they're saying that they're confirming rather that they did in fact receive a notice of that secondary strike rather, that will take place. And Kadita has just confirmed to us, saying that it will take place on Monday should it go ahead. It will have a major impact, but also continuing to urge those who have stayed away to come back to work.